morning, gentlemen. Good morning, sir. So we are quickly doing a recap on multiplying and dividing decimals. Okay? So how do we multiply decimals? Is this a decimal? Number has a decimal in it?
Yes.
This one as well?
Yes.
So how do we multiply them? Yep.
We take away the decimal points and then then multiply them like regular numbers, and then re-add the decimal point by how many decimal places were in the original sum.
Excellent. So first we ignore the decimals and multiply these two numbers as if they are whole numbers. Can I do that? I can do whatever I want. Okay, so I'm going to multiply 2374 times 16. Can I do that?
Yes.
Now, I've just gotten rid of the decimal altogether. However, we have not forgotten about it. 6 times 4? 24. 6 times 7? 42. Plus 2?
44.
6 times 3? 18. Plus 4?
22.
And 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 2 is?
14.
Now, what do? We're multiplying by the tens digit, so we put a 0 here. I've made it simpler. I've just given you 1. So 1 times 4, 1 times 7, 1 times 3, 1 times 2. Can you see I'm lining up the digits? As always, it is important to line up the digits in multiplication. What's the next step? Add. 4, 8, 9, 7, 3. So the answer will be 37984. However, we had decimals. So let's count the total number of decimal places in the question. Total for both numbers. After the decimal, how many numbers? 2 digits. Here, 1. So how many digits are after the decimal in total? 3. We need to have the same in the answer. So let's count from here. 1, 2, 3. So that means after the decimal, we need to have 3 decimal places. Simple? That's all there is to multiplying decimals. Multiply them as normal, as if there was no decimal point. Once you've multiplied, count the total number of digits after the decimal in the question, and the answer must have the same number of decimal digits. Are we happy with that? Perfect. Any questions? Now, moving on to dividing decimals. Now, is this a decimal?
Yes.
This one has a decimal?
Yes.
The first step is we write it as a fraction. So numerator divided by denominator. Yes? Now our goal is to get rid of the decimal in the denominator. I don't want the denominator to have a decimal. Okay? So what can I do? How many decimal places do I need to move the bottom one so that I get rid of it? Can I move it 2 places to the right?
Yes.
And it just becomes 3. However, technically I've just multiplied this by 100, haven't I? I must do the same to the top. So how many places have we moved the decimal? 2 places to the right. You do the exact same thing to the top. Move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay? Now, this becomes equivalent to over 3. Yes? Can we divide by 3?
Yes.
So we have made our question simpler. We are dividing by a decimal, but the bottom number that we are dividing by is a whole number. So let us just divide. 3 goes into 1 how many times?
0.
3 goes into 19 how many times?
6.
3 times 6 is 18, remainder 1. 3 goes into 16, 5 times, remainder 1. 3 goes into 17, 5, remainder
2.
Now, I have a decimal here. I line it up. Put a decimal in the quotient as well. 3 goes into 26 how many times? 3 times 8 is 24. Remainder 2. 3 times, what is 24? 8. So this is your answer. 655.88. Simple? So whatever we do to the bottom of a fraction in terms of multiplying, we do the same to the top. And the goal is to get rid of the decimal in the denominator. Make sense? Next one, let's do another question. We write it as a
Fraction.
How do I get rid of this decimal? Move it 1 place to the right. I must do the same to the top. So what do I get? Do I need to put a decimal here? Ha. So isn't it a whole number divided by whole number? Let's do the division. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 3 once. Remainder 1. 2 goes into 17 8 times. Remainder 1. 2 goes into 15 4 times. Remainder 1. What do I do? Yes, put a decimal and then put a 0. You can't just put zeros. You have to put the decimal and then put the zeros after. Remember, we don't need remainders now. I want you to do decimals. So, the remainder was 1, but there was nothing there, so I put a decimal followed by as many zeros as I like. 2 goes into 10 how many times? 5. And that's it. The answer is 1187.5. Any questions? So this is how we multiply decimals and that's how we divide. Now we'll move on to converting a fraction into a decimal and we'll also talk about recurring and non-recurring decimals. Fine? Okay. So I'll stop this.